Okay, thanks very much everybody for joining me, and thanks Michael for arranging this, and it's great to join you virtually today in Pennsylvania. So as Michael said, I'm going to be talking about Grab CMS from a real educator's point of view. I am an instructor myself. I've been teaching user interface design for over 20 years, and I got into Grab a few years ago to help address some shortcomings of my use of the Canvas LMS. And so today I'm going to give you, it's kind of like a two-parter. First part is going to give you a bit of an overview about what Grab is, why it might interest my fellow educators like yourselves, and then I'll let you drive the second part of the presentation, and that'll be looking at one or more open source projects that I've got on the go right now using Grab. Michael is kind of my eyes and ears in the room, and so, you know, whenever you have a question or you want to review something, just either yell at the camera or let Michael know, and he'll let me know, and then we can kind of do a more interactive session, which I'm more than happy to do. Answering any questions, going into any kind of stuff that you'd like to, I'm happy to do that. At the end of the session, or at the end of, I guess, of your STEM workshop, I'll be also passing along to Michael a URL for all the slides, so you can get all that, and of course all my contact information. Okay? So with that, let's have a look at Grab. So we've got a little journey here planned for you today, and it's got, like I say, broken into two main parts. The first part is kind of a review of what Grab is. So we're going to give you a brief introduction to Grab. Some of the key benefits that I see providing educators. A really amazing development in the Grab universe is the Git Sync plugin, which allows almost anybody fairly seamless synchronization of text, data, pictures stored in a Git repository like GitHub or GitLab, and even cool GitBooks, which I can show you if you're interested in, and a Grab site. And then, like I say, I'll show you my list of current projects, and then you can choose what to go into. So let's stop there for a second. And Michael, is this pace okay? Is everybody hearing me okay? Stuff like that?
Yeah, it sounds good. I'm on the microphone, so can you hear me?
All good, great, thank you. Okay. So what is Grab? So Grab is a fairly recently introduced content management system, CMS, and it is fairly unique as compared to more traditional CMSs like WordPress or Joomla, that it does not use a database. All the content used for your Grab sites remain in native format files. And as we proceed in this session, you'll see what that kind of can give you, in particular, some really interesting open and collaborative publishing and workflow opportunities. Grab 1.0 was released about a year and a half ago, and they're already starting some groundwork of 2, which is exciting to hear. And you know, I want to highlight why you might be interested in Grab. Not so much that, you know, it is a really strong up-and-comer in terms of CMS platforms, and it is open source, which is really a great thing to see. But from an educator, viewpoint, you know, what does Grab offer us that might interest us to use it instead of more traditional platforms when it comes to either a space for our students or perhaps publishing OER content and things like that? So I'm just going to go through briefly some key benefits that I have found myself for tech-savvy educators. And tech-savvy, that in itself is an interesting label, isn't it? So in the next slide, I'm going to give you kind of like what I see that meaning. And then near the end of the session, we're going to loop back to that and see that after you've seen what's involved, if you think it's reasonable for me to be using that as like a prefix. So quite briefly, like I mentioned already, that one of the biggest things is there's no database. So in other words, when you want to install Grab, which I'll show you in a minute, it's less than 1 minute actually to install. When you want to back up Grab, you don't have to worry about backup a database. You just back up files. And the files are reusable. And that's why I see OER a natural partner with Grab, because you never lock up content in a database in a format that you can't work with directly. And even when you move to a different server, you just copy the folder over, and that's it, and you're ready to go. Grab can be redistributed in some ready-to-run skeleton packages. Think of this as a pre-configured site with content and logic all wrapped up in one little zip file, and I'll show you what that looks like to install. Of course, it delivers fast, mobile-friendly websites, so that's a given these days. It is optimized for small to moderate sized sites. So if you have a site with like 100,000 pages, Grab is not for you. But a lot of educators like me, we don't have 100,000 pages. If you have a moderate sized site, let's say between 10 and even like 5,000 pages, Grab can be a great fit. Grab uses not only HTML, but Markdown. I'd like to see how many people in the audience are familiar with Markdown. Could you raise your hands? And Michael, could you give me a count on that, please? I see some hands waving.
Sure. So that looks like 5 or 6. Although I did talk about Markdown, so everyone should have been raising their hands. But only 5 or 6.
Good technique. I like that. Good technique. So for those of you who don't remember, or you know, it's a new concept, Markdown is basically a shortcut, to me, a way to semantically mark up content. Instead of remembering, you know, a tag like bold and then your text and closing a tag like close bold, you would just do asterisk, asterisk, and your content, and 2 asterisks again. So I find it anyway more streamlined to mark up content in HTML. This point is really important. Content is accessible independent of CMS. Because content is stored as files, that means any program that can access files, any access to another service like GitHub or GitLab, that can be stored in files. So it really gives you a lot more opportunity to manipulate and work with your content. Grab also supports modular and custom content types. What does that mean? It means that if you have a piece of content in your Grab site, you can reuse it over and over again on different pages and only have one source of that content needing to be edited. And you can also even display different custom content types, such as blog posts, or such as Google Map entries, or such as OER content. And we'll look at that a little bit later. And last thing, and we're going to get into this a little bit more as well, is that content and even themes can be Git synced. In other words, synchronized with the Git repository for open collaboration. So that's a brief list of some key benefits for Grab. And right now, oh, by the way, Michael, anytime anybody has a question or they want to ask something, just let me know and I'll stop. Otherwise, it's hard for me to see in the little video window that I have to do that.
Okay, I'll do that.
One thing I do mention is that this is not for everybody right now, and so I'm probably being overly cautious by using the term tech savvy in front of my audience for Grab. But to me, tech savvy means the following, being able to use a text editor, knowing either Markdown or HTML basics, knowing that folders represent hierarchies and knowing how to access folder hierarchies, i.e. like relative links in HTML, being able to access a web server, having working knowledge of some kind of a Git repository package like GitHub or GitLab or Book, and I'll be showing you that in a moment. And in the past, you would need to use GitHub Desktop so you could upload and download changes to your Git repositories without any scripting, by the way. It's just point and click. But what's really cool is most recently they've introduced this inside this text editor called Atom. And so now you can even do everything in one spot. You can edit your files and upload them to GitHub and never leave Atom, which is really neat. And I might be able to show you that in a little bit while. We'll see how time is going. So we'll look back to this and see if you think that this is a reasonable way for me to describe what I'm going to be showing you for the next 20 or 30 minutes. Okay, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you what's involved in a Grab install. So this is going to be a complete zero to complete running website in about 1 minute. And basically I'm going to play this little movie for you and I'll just describe a few things that are going on as you see it on the screen. Just give you an idea of what an install is like. So basically, to start off with your install, you would upload a single zip file to your FTP server. So I'm using cPanel here. I'm selecting my Grab zip file, uploading it to my server, and now I'm going to go back to my server directory, and I'm going to expand that zip file. So once the file is expanded, believe it or not, you have a running Grab install. I'm going to go to my web browser, navigate to the directory that I expanded that zip file, and open the folder that that zip file expanded into, and voila, Grab is running. The only thing now that you need to do is create an admin account. So you as a site author or administrator can access the site's options. So you see here, I'm going to my username, password, I'm going to create my first user, I'm going to then see the admin panel, and for those of you who know WordPress or other things like that, it's a very similar kind of display. And then there's the running grab site. So there you go. That is the under 1 minute grab install that you can do. Did you notice that we didn't have to configure a database? And this makes, like I say, a lot of things possible as we go through. So that is our quick look at grab install. Now, what about this git sync that I'm talking about? So git sync is a plugin for Grab, and what it allows you to do is it allows you to basically do automatic synchronization of your Grab site content to any Git repository, just about. And like I say, if you're familiar with the site GitHub, that's a web service that has Git running in the background. There's also things like GitLab, which you can install on your own server in an institution, and also GitBook, which gives you this really beautiful looking interface for editing content inside of books, which I can show you a bit later on too, probably. So like I say, any Git repo that supports webhooks will work with out of the box. There's a step-by-step wizard with the Git sync plugin. I think I'm going to show you that in a moment. And for those who are really tech savvy and want to script stuff, you can even, in the future, it is planned to do some supported scripting at the command line. But right now, it's just point and click and you can get things going. This is a little diagram I put together to kind of help you visualize why this is really important. Usually when we put together a site and we host it for OER or let's say our course materials, you have to grant someone back-end admin access to edit the content, or at least author access to that system. So whether it's WordPress or Canvas or Moodle, you would have to kind of deal with stuff and set up authors before anybody can do anything with that content. Git sync will change all that. What it will do is it will synchronize your site content to the Git repository of your choice, like GitBooks, GitLab, GitHub, and then anybody in the world who has access to that service can then suggest a, oh, it seems my connection is down. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
You're okay.
Okay, my circus is not. So I'm just going to keep going. Thanks, just give me a holler if something goes wrong. And so with this Git sync plugin working, then anyone in the world can make a proposed change. So you as the admin still have complete control over the site. Very important point here. You're not giving up control, you're opening up true collaboration, where your students can propose changes to your course site, where your colleagues can propose changes to your OER content, where you can have a group of people working on OER content all through Git sync. Everything is version controlled, you can roll back changes, you can see who is doing what, and so that's a very powerful publishing technique. And it's early days. I think we're only starting to see now more user-friendly Git front ends, like GitBook is an example of where I think we're going to be going. But right now, because Git is used in the back end for almost all of this stuff, you can utilize a wide range of services. So a couple of benefits that you get automatic version backups of Grab pages. Anytime your Grab site is changed, it's automatically gets synced to your Git repository. You have an open and collaborative workflow using industry standard Git services that I just mentioned. And all your site content is open in a platform agnostic format. So here's a scenario. Someone loves OER, they create a WordPress blog site, they publish all kinds of great WordPress-based OER content. Question, how are you as an educator who wants to use that content going to get that content over to your other format, whether it's Grab site, or even another WordPress site perhaps, Joomla, Drupal, whatever it might be. The thing is by syncing your Grab content to a Git repository, people have access to the raw content in Markdown. So in other words, they don't even need admin access to your site. They can get literally every page of your content through the Git repository, and I'll be showing you that briefly too. Okay, so I think that's probably a good spot to stop. I can check in, Michael, with everybody, see if there's any initial questions. And then what we have here, by the way, everybody, is a list of 4 open source projects that I have on the go now As you can probably read right on the slide, I've got a little brief description, and Michael can help me kind of facilitate what the group is most interested in seeing. I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've got about 20 minutes left or so, because I like to make sure everyone can head out to the next thing on time. So we can look at least one or maybe even more, depending on how deep you want to go. So first of all, I guess, Michael, does anybody have any questions so far?
Any questions? Doesn't seem like it.
I'll ask something.
Oh, okay, we have a question.
Yeah, so I noticed that one of the technologies that you're using requires PHP. So is this like a PHP backend in order to run this CMS?
Okay, so I think I heard the question right. PHP backend, so yes, the CMS itself is authored in PHP. So in order to run it, you basically just need a PHP server, but no database stuff is required. Hope I answered your question.
So it's like one PHP file or something that runs that, or is
Symphony.
oh, it's Symphony.
And the CMS itself, it's a collection of PHP files. And like I say, you do need a modern version of PHP. Oh, I forget the minimum version, to be honest. But it even works with the newest releases of PHP, which is 7.x. But it does work with some older PHP versions as well. I just forget the version number right off.
Yeah, what is actually the purpose for, because I've seen other solutions that do like flat file, not necessarily CMSs, but flat file distribution, letting GitHub. So what's the purpose of the kind of PHP CMS part?
Excellent question. Grab is actually not a static site generator. With a static site generator like Jekyll, you need to regenerate the entire site every time you make one change. Grab is a dynamic PHP CMS, which means that, as you might see in some of these examples, you can make a small change anytime through either program code or by manually editing the site. And just that change it's automatically available dynamically right away on the website, and then it gets synced to the Git repository. So as an instructor, when I was looking at what I was going to partner Canvas with, I looked at a whole bunch of things, including static site generators, but because of the dynamic nature that I really wanted my content to have, to be able to add additional JavaScript widgets, to be able to dynamically update small amounts of content, I went to the flat file CMS route rather than a static site generator. So I hope that answers the question.
Jared, you have a question?
So your web content, can it be converted into another format, like ebook format, that type of thing?
Oh, sorry, I didn't quite catch the last part of that question. So the question was about web content being converted into some other format?
Yeah, another format like EPUB or digital book type of format. Can it be converted into any other formats like that?
Okay, if I follow the question, because Grab does not have its own custom format, it only uses Markdown or HTML files. If you have any kind of web service or application that converts Markdown files into another format, then certainly you could do that.
Oh, we have another question from Ray.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Can you define the difference between what you're calling like a flat file CMS versus a static file generator? So my question is basically, when I create, say, a Jekyll site, it just generates like a bunch of HTML pages. When I use this thing, what are the flat files and what's the flatness of it? Is it just that not using a database part, but it's still, it's still something that you have to pre-process, like the PHP, in order to generate some of the functionality?
Yes, if I'm following along, yeah, the CMS itself is running in the background. It will, as you say, do any processing that's required, but site content remains static files. So it would still be HTML or usually more commonly Markdown files. And so let's say I go onto I can go to a Grab site, and by the way, because it's PHP, I have an admin panel. So usually you don't have like a live admin panel with live web editing capability with a static site generator, because that wouldn't be usually possible. So with Grab, you have the ability to have both an online admin panel, you have the ability to dynamically update bits of content, and the site is automatically refreshed with that content. But because, again, the back end is all files, and I can show you this actually in just a moment, then you have all the benefits of files like static site generators do as well. You can sync with a Git repository and all that kind of good stuff.
Okay, does anyone have a desire to see any one of these projects that Paul has listed up here? Go. All right, we have a request for ePortfolio. Any other requests? And then OER content or open core. I think content space. It sounds like the top three on the on your list there are the most popular.
Okay, so OER content space, ePortfolio blog, and what's the third? I'm sorry or not?
Open Course Hub, OER content space, and ePortfolio blog.
Gotcha. Okay, great. All right. So what I'll do is ePortfolio blog and OER content space are kind of like brother and sister. So why don't I start with one of those, and then see what kind of questions remain, and then see if we have time for Open Course Hub. Michael, what time should I be aiming to wrap this up by? I was planning in about 15 minutes. Is that correct?
Yeah, about 15 minutes would be.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's see. Okay, let's go into OER content space because I think I can kind of easily extrapolate for you for ePortfolio blog. So OER content space is a pre-configured Grab skeleton. So when I see skeleton, I just mean a prepackaged site that you can download in a single zip file, expand on your web server, and start playing with quite quickly. Okay? And it came about because, by the way, the first project I built was Open Course Hub. And then once I got it used with, once I got it going with GitSync, I thought, well, gee, if there's an area that could benefit from reusable content that's remixable and accessible, it would be OER. So I put together this little sample project just to demonstrate this. So the project itself is designed, again, there's that phrase, tech-savvy educators and authors share and collaboratively edit Markdown-based OER content. So, and this is important for me to highlight, there's two aspects of this. It's editing and sharing. Editing means you can have a team of people with all access to a Git repository that will allow them to propose changes where one or more OER site authors would accept those changes and get actually the content updated. And sharing, meaning that anybody, even without access to changing content, can access all content in raw Markdown files for easier reuse, remixing, and the good 5 R's, right? So that's the main idea. This is a diagram that you'll say, hey, this kind of looks similar to what we saw before, and you're right. Except I just tried to make it a bit more specific, right? With your OER audience, going to your OER content space site, they may just want to view the site. They may also want to access the raw content of the site, or maybe they're actually going to be contributors to that site. So all of these kind of roles for your audience can be supported by hosting your content on a Git repository like GitHub or GitHub. Another thing that's included with both the ePortfolio blog skeleton and the OER content space is a framework called Gantry. Gantry is a framework that allows you to visually modify a site's appearance. As you can see here in this little snapshot, you can see that there's a logo and a header for your header area. For the top of your web page, there's a navigation area with this little view edit page in Git, which I'm going to show you in a moment, and so on. You can see here this is all a visual presentation rather than coding and scripting and things like that. So that's included in both the OER content space and ePortfolio blog, just to allow you to visually kind of adjust your site a little bit without having to get into the technicalities involved. Let's give you a demo then of what setup looks like from start to finish for the OER content space with GitSync setup. So here we are again in our C panel. We're going to upload a single zip file. So you'll go, oh, this is familiar now. This is what we did before. They showed us the Grab install. So it's exactly the same thing. So once that file is uploaded, you would then go back to your folder directory and expand that file. And then once that file is expanded, you betcha, we're going to go visit that site in a web browser. So all of those steps are quite familiar. And of course, if you remember last time, once you do that, you would set up your admin account to do that. So we're going to just go over here, we're going to go to the site, and I'm going to create my admin account. And then the additional steps that are required will be to set up a Git repository that will be automatically synced. So I'm going to show you completely what's involved, so you can get a good sense of the workflow that you need to do to first get it going. Once it's started, it's pretty easy to edit and continue your content. So here's the default presentation, and you see this link called, I'll just pause the movie, this link called, there we go. So a link will automatically be provided on the website for you to continue the setup you need to do. You need to set up the Git sync plugin, and you need to tell it where your Git repository is. So let's continue with that. So this is the wizard I mentioned. In this wizard, you enter the credentials for your Git book or your GitLab or your GitHub account. So I'm just going to do that here. And I'm going to then need to set up a repository in order to store this content. So I'm going to open up a new browser window. I'm going to go to GitHub. I've signed in, by the way. I'm going to create a new repository in GitHub. So I'm going to give it a name. Let's call it OER Content Space. And I'm just going to put an empty file in there just to start the repository. And my file repository is created, so it's not too bad. I'm going to copy the URL to my repository, paste that into my Git sync plugin, check the connection. Looks like it's worked okay. Then the next thing I have to do is I'm going to copy the webhook. What's a webhook, by the way? A webhook is when, this is really powerful. When someone makes a change to the repository and you accept that change, changes to your graph site will be automatically pushed. So you don't have to do any manual stuff with your graph site. Once you accept the change request on GitHub, your graph site will automatically be updated through the webhook. So then the last step we need to do is set up a URL that will be used as a basis, so when someone clicks like edit this page in GitHub, it will take them to the right corresponding page in the Git repository. So I'm going to open my pages folder, I'm going to copy the URL of my pages folder, and now I'm going to go back over to my OER content space, paste that URL just up to the word master, apply and save, and we are done. So now when I preview that site, I can click on edit this page, and I go right to the GitHub page. So for someone editing the page, it's a simple one tap to go from the graph site to exactly the markdown file that they would need to edit in the GitHub or Gitbook or GitLab repository. So that gives you a sense of the complete setup process. Now, there is also a service called Gitbook. And I'm going to show you what that looks like using OER Content Space. And you'll notice that Gitbook, it's aimed more at content authors. You know, GitHub is really used for open source software creation. But I'll just give you this brief little demo, and you'll see the user interface of Gitbook is quite a user-friendly interface for editing content with your graph site. So I'm just going to briefly show you that. Here's, look, our OER Content Space. When we go to a standard page, I'm going to tap edit this page, and this is Gitbook. So notice the nice clean interface. I'm going to enter a line of text into Gitbook. I'm going to publish that. And then look at this. This magic is going to be pretty wild. When I go over to my, if I went over to my graph site and refreshed my page, here's that edit. So you can see here how seamless this can be in editing content from the Gitbook and then being updated to your OER content space.
Paul, sorry to interrupt you.
Sure.
Is it possible to show us a live website of you doing that?
Totally. Let's do that right now. So on the slides, there'll be a demo site that you can access, but let's close the slides and go to a little sandbox site. Let's go to a live site with Gitbook. So here is a live website, OER Content Space. Let's log in, just so you can see what it looks like at the back end usually with your graph admin panel. And this will also give you a bit better idea of how content is stored. So let's say I go to my Pages tab. This is the pages of my OER content space. We've got like a pretty basic page. Remember that standard page? We can open that up. So in your admin panel, you can see that you can do some basic text editing. You can add pictures, something like that. Nothing too, outlandish. I'm just going to take this little item off here, and I'm going to save that. So this is just making an edit. So with a graph site, you basically can choose how you edit content and also how you may have other people edit content. So usually only the site administrator would have access to the graph panel. Now I'm going to preview the site. So here I go to standard page, and of course that little blurb context, the content is gone. But we can also, you just notice this link. So edit this page in Gitbook. So what does that do? Remember when I configured my site and I told it where the Git repository was, and I said the base URL to the pages folder? Well, I can click on this link, and this will take me directly to the file in Gitbook. Now, to help you better understand the relationship between pages and files in Grab in my 3 minutes that I've left, let's go back to my Grab pages view. See pages, home, standard page, blog. Blog, by the way, is a subfolder of files, and each page here is a blog post. So that's how we see it in the admin panel. But now if we go over to Gitbook and we look at our files, look at how these are, by the way, physical files. For instance, let's open up the blog folder and then open up one of the subfolders, and you will see file. So this is really where the magic happens, if you will, because everything in Grab is flat file, meaning that it's native files. You can then synchronize it to any Git system, like as you see Gitbook, and it even includes the picture and the text here. So now let's go off script. The demo gods sometimes can be nasty, but let's go off script and see if we can actually make a live change and see if it all works. So I just randomly selected this blog post. I'm going to type in new edit here. And because I am the admin of this repository, I just have the publish button. So I'm just going to publish that change. What you could do, by the way, is in Gitbook, you can set up a set of collaborators that have permission to also edit your content directly or require you to accept their changes before it's pushed to the Grab site. So I've made my change. I'm going to now go to blog. And what was that post? It was classic modern architecture, correct?
Yep. Yes.
Look at that. So that is seamless two-way syncing of content, but again, I can't stress enough, we're going to do one more thing. I have 2 minutes left. I want to show you ePortfolio blog example. This is for students who are tech savvy, who want to create an e-portfolio that can leave with them after college. And so you can't even think of them having the same system. You need to provide content in a cross-system format. Markdown is what I would propose the best format to be. So in this Grab site, the students can create a blog just like they could with WordPress, except at the bottom of their site, there'll be a button called View Content Repository, where they can access their content in reusable Markdown native format. So we'll just go here to edit this. So it'll be reusable in different systems. They could even invite other people to collaborate on that same content. But with ePortfolio blog, the idea is that this is content they want to reuse in different things. And just to kind of show you one more thing before we end the session, because it's in a repository, you can do something like this. You can clone that repository to your local desktop. And we're going to clone that. And then get this now, you can now edit content on your desktop. So here is my ePortfolio blog site. Here's my pages folder. I'm just going to drag that over to my text editor. because again, everything is just files. You can do this now, and everything is Git synced. So here we have a page with your content. And my time is up, but basically you would be able to even edit, make changes on your desktop in the editor of your choice, push them to your Git repository, and have it automatically sync to your online website. You can see the power of this for OER. OER then allows, with content that's OER friendly, as in the 5 R's, not only can people reuse your content, remix your content, but also you have the much better ability to author your content. You're not locked into a web platform at all. You can author your content on any desktop of your choice, using the software of your choice, and then just upload that content to your Git repository and have it mirrored to your site. So I think my time is up, but let's just go to my last slide for content information, and I'll be sure to share these slides with Michael, so everybody at the end of the workshop can get these as well. So I'll let you decide how much time you would like to have for a final Q&A. I'm more than happy to do that. But I hope that this at least presentation has given you a little brief intro about what Graph can do, especially in the OER space.
Okay, thanks, Paul. JR, do we have a few minutes for questions, or do we need to? Okay, it sounds like we can do some questions if anyone has any.
I have a question.
Ray has a question again.
Great, thanks.
I'm sorry to be hogging the time, but so if this thing doesn't have a database, but you do have user admin, then what is that stored in, and where is it, and what about security?
Okay, so in general, the nice thing about no database is that it makes the system less subject to SQL attacks and database injection. So right away, your risk is lower. You still need, of course, a web server that's adequately protected. In terms of your question, user information is stored as encrypted files, and actually each user has their own file with a hashed encrypted password. So in terms of security, I don't see anything out of the ordinary there, except for the fact that user credentials would be stored, as I say, in a folder within the database, or sorry, in a folder within the Graph site. So of course permissions is important, but Graph comes with a default set of permissions to prevent unauthorized access to anything like that. Hope that answers your question.
Looks like Brian has a question.
It's a bunch of YAML files.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Paul.
Hey Brian, how are you?
Good. Do you have anyone using that ePortfolio, and can I steal it? Do you have anyone using the student ePortfolio thing yet?
You know what, I really don't know. You know, I don't have a lot of visibility. Once in a while, I get emails about people who have questions about it, and I know it's being downloaded on GitHub. All the projects are available for download today. So on GitHub, ePortfolio is downloaded to play around with. So I don't have someone's public site to share right now, to be honest, no. But I have heard from a few people who've started to play around with it for their own purposes.
Can you tweet me that link so I can steal it?
Of course, what's mine is yours.
You probably just forked the repo, right?
Yeah, I just don't remember what the repo is. I harass Paul all the time.
Hello, I have an ePortfolio question as well.
Sure.
Really interested in your presentation, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Are you familiar, if anyone is using the ePortfolio, with the ABLE group, the Association for Authentic Learning and Evidence-Based Learning? It's AAEEBL. It's a association for ePortfolio.
No, I'm not aware of that, and obviously I'd love to learn, myself. One thing I should mention, the ePortfolio project is kind of just like a concept piece where it just seemed to me that the ability to give students control over their own data that they create for an ePortfolio would be paramount. And so when I got the OER content space project going, it just seemed to be the natural twin, brother, sister, if you will, for students. But it's like this crazy shot in the dark, to be honest. And it uses a already published blog skeleton, which is available for Gantry and Grav. All I did was I customized it a bit to provide this really easy to use HipSync plugin. So I don't know if I really answered your question, but I'm not aware of that group either, and I would love to learn more about it.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
Okay, any last question? All right, looks like we can take one more question.
I'm kind of embarrassed to ask this question. I'm not a web developer in any way. I'm just rookie at this. Can you explain what's the difference between the Grove and WordPress? It sounds like a Grove you can use with GitHub and GitHub, those kind of things. So can you elaborate on that?
So if I understand the question correctly, the difference between Grav and WordPress?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, perfect. No, that's a great question, actually. They're both content management systems. They're both open source. The difference, though, is that WordPress stores all content in an SQL database. And that's fine, by the way. There's no problem with that. But that means it's a lot more complicated to extract data from that database, synchronize it with an external source, and use it in a different format. It is possible though, and for sure, like if you are in WordPress and WordPress does everything that you want, there are actually now Git sync plugins for WordPress. The thing is that it is only providing partial support of partial post types to synchronize with a Git repository and doing all kinds of translation in between those two endpoints. Grav, since it does not use a database, it uses Markdown as its native format. Grav content is Markdown to begin with, and because Grav stores everything in files, where a page is a file, synchronizing it to a Git repository is really a much more straightforward and, to be honest, safer process, because it doesn't have to go through such complex translation. And in fact, because Grav is files again, you can see that I could even clone my repository on my desktop, and I could actually edit my files on my desktop. And I just have to push the files back into the repository and I'm done. And again, this all works so well because Grav is file-based. Brian might actually be able to shed a little bit more light about maybe database versus flat file from his perspective. But I hope that at least answers enough of your question to kind of clarify that a bit.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, I think we're out of time. Thanks, Paul. So if we can give Paul.